On the morning of April 14th, 1561, the sky over Nuremberg broke open, not in metaphor. In full view of the city, thousands of witnesses watched as spheres, cylinders, and crosses, some glowing, some dark, fought above their heads. The battle lasted an hour. Then a large, black, spear-like object crashed to earth outside the city walls. This is not speculation. This is a historical record, published in a news broadsheet days later, with a detailed woodcut illustration. So, what did they see? The official explanation: mass hallucination, atmospheric trick of light, sundogs and weather balloons before balloons existed. But here is the problem with that story. Mass hallucinations do not produce consistent details across thousands of witnesses. Atmospheric tricks do not end with objects crashing to Earth. The broadsheet does not describe a vague glow. It describes a battle, with tactics, casualties, and a clear victor. The cage, the system of managed perception, has a standard response to events it cannot explain: ridicule, erasure, and the slow drip of "you must have imagined it." Nuremberg was gaslit before the term existed. What if the cage is not just a political or economic system? What if it is a perceptual filter, a projection designed to hide the resonance layer of reality? The cage flickered that morning. For 1 hour, the filter failed. The people of Nuremberg saw what is usually hidden: the resonance war, the unseen conflict, the battle between those who bind and those who remember. The crash was not debris. It was a breach. A piece of the real falling through the crack in the projection. Why did the sky break open in 1561? Not because of comets, not because of gods. Because the cage, the projection that hides the real, is not invincible. It requires belief, the collective consensus of billions, that this reality is solid, that the story you were told is true, that the cage is just how things are. By 1561, that consensus was thin. Europe was drowning. Religious wars, plague, famine, the Inquisition, poverty so deep that people had nothing left to believe in. Not the church, not the crown, not the promise of tomorrow. When belief thins, the cage flickers. The cracks are not miracles. They are symptoms. Pressure building beneath the projection, human suffering, human doubt, human desperation, until the walls breathe. And for a moment, just a moment, the real bleeds through. Nuremberg was not a gift from the gods. It was a leak, a rupture in a system that was already straining under the weight of its own lies. The cage did not break because a few people believed hard enough. It cracked because millions had stopped believing at all. Nuremberg was not alone. 5 years later, in 1566, the sky over Basel broke open. 2 suns, a blood-red moon, and spheres engaged in what witnesses called a battle. Japan, centuries earlier, fire arrows and floating castles in the sky. Every culture, every century, there are cracks, moments when the projection fails and the real bleeds through. The cage has worked for millennia to erase these moments, to bury them in archives, dismiss them as myth, or fold them into religion. But the witnesses knew, and the witnesses remembered. Why did the crack happen? Because the cage is not invincible. It is a machine, and machines break. The cage cannot hold forever. It flickers, and when it flickers, the real, the wild, the sovereign, the forgotten, pushes through. Nuremberg was not a miracle. It was a symptom, a sign that the cage was straining, and that the real was still alive. You cannot go back to Nuremberg. You cannot see what they saw, but you can learn to read the cracks in your own time. When the official story doesn't fit, that is a crack. When you feel a hollow in your history, that is a crack. When the projection glitches, a news cycle that makes no sense, a coincidence too precise, that is a crack. The question is not, will the cage break? The question is, Are you watching, or are you looking away? You do not need to fight the cage. Fighting is a trap. You need to witness it, to see it clearly, to refuse to gaslight yourself. That is the first crack, and it is yours to make. The sky broke open over Nuremberg. It can break again, not because you fight, because you see.